All right, welcome everybody. Today we are taking a look at the Loop's solo mode. Now, I'll give you a brief rundown of how the Loop plays standard, and then we'll talk about how it plays solo. There are some major differences here. So you have a nice little player aid, probably one of the better player aids I've seen for a co-op. So we have 5 phases. We have the Faux Phase, which is you're going to add, come on, focus. Add clones and reveal an artifact, and then you reveal a faux card and rotate the machine and drop rift cubes. And then you'll have your actions where you're going to use your cards to take a number of actions, including possibly repeating those actions. And then you're going to acquire an artifact, and that's cards that are out that are anywhere you ended on. And if you happen to have completed a mission, this is when you would do it, but your character has to be in the spot where you completed the mission. And then end of turn stuff, we'll talk about that when we get there, because in solo mode, we are actually controlling 2 of the agents. And so, in solo mode, I do the lights off to avoid the glare. We're using 2 agents. I have Mr. Time and the Time Prowler here. Move them over a bit more. So first, let's just kind of go through the way this goes. And so in this game, we're adding clones, and we have 3 phases to complete 4 missions. Or if these are the vortexes, by the these red cubes are the vortexes, and then if one of those pops twice, then we lose. Or if 4 of them pop, then we lose. So the first thing we do is in age 1, cycle 1 I should say, we add 1 clone, which is going to go into the orange age over here. And then we draw an artifact. When we draw artifacts, we match them with the color and era that they belong in. So what are we trying to do with these clones? First off, you look at the back of them. So this one started in the blue age, and if you look real closely, he belongs in the yellow age, which is the medieval period. So if you can push or pull a clone into the medieval era, they go back in the bag. It's kind of like an anomaly. I immediately thought of that episode of Futurama where I think it was Hermes had 2 bodies in one era, or 2 heads or something like that, and one of them was always doomed. So anyway, now what we do is we flip the card here, and it shows this era. So what that means is we're going to drop 2 red cubes plus how many clones are in this era. So we take our cube tower here and we put it facing that direction. With the center one goes in that direction. So we also have 1 clone there, and I'm probably going to try zooming in and moving over so you can see it, because it's not easy to see. This game has a very large footprint. So I'm going to zoom in and show you kind of what happens. You know what? I'll get it. There we go. Show you what happens. So we have 1 clone, and you always drop 2 red, and 1 per clone in there. So I'm dropping 3 cubes in the cube tower, and so what happened is 2 of them are in the orange era, and 1 is in the purple era. Now, if another cube falls in the orange era, that will become a vortex. We lose that mission immediately, and I believe the next one pops, or is that only when we successfully complete a mission? Taking a look here. Yeah, if it's removed, we will reveal a new mission in Dr. Faux's era. Now, Dr. Faux right now is in this era. So, if we have anything that we've got to do for Dr. Faux in that era, and then you move clockwise. So what are we trying to complete? So this one up here says exterminate the duplicates. So destroy 1 clone in 6 different eras, and it has the options up there. So you don't have to do all 7, but you have to destroy them in 6 different eras. And the other one we're doing here is make a fool of Faux, do a loop in Dr. Faux's era. We'll talk about looping in just a second. So now, whoop, here we go. You don't need to see all the other games I'm working on. So now I have to select an agent. So according to the solo rules, what I do, and these are the bag of clones, It's not a Pandasaurus game, everyone, unless there's a bag. And I mean that in a good way. So what we do is we've shuffled both of their starting decks together. And what we do is we are going to start turning over artifacts. And you'll notice that on these cards, there's a little symbol at the bottom. You know, maybe we are better off with the light. There's a little symbol at the bottom that shows which of the two it is. So this goes onto the Time Prowler. And we're going to do this until one of them has 3, and then that's the agent we use to activate. The next one goes to Mr. Time, another one for the Time Prowler, and Mr. Time, and then Mr. Time. So Mr. Time is going to be our active agent. So let's take a look at his cards, and I'm going to keep this here. He has the Mechanical Grappling Hook, which is pull 1 clone from an adjacent era. Middle Manager's Suit, place any agent in another agent's era. If that era has no green, add 1 green there. And then the Temporo Dynamic Mohawk, add 1 green to another agent's era, then move yourself up to 2 eras. Now I kind of put these like this down here because, and I'll make sure we can see them, there's a certain way you get to activate them. So, like I said, I'm trying to destroy 4 clones or loop 4 times in Dr. Fo's era. Okay, so I have, first off, I have always a free move that is move any one era. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to flip them. So that shows that I used that. By the way, these symbols on here are just to show what he has in his starting deck. So I'm going to move my guy to the medieval era. Why am I doing that? Because I'm going to use the Mechanical Grappling Hook to pull 1 clone from an adjacent era. So I've pulled this clone into the medieval era. He becomes an anomaly and goes back in the bag. Because I destroyed a clone in the 6 different eras, I take a green cube and I put it on the medieval era on the mission that's up there in the corner, because that's one of the conditions that I needed to do. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a green, and once you've used these cards, you use them, but there is a catch, and I'll show you what that is. Add a green to another agent's era, so the only other agent right now is that, and then move yourself up to 2 eras, and I'd love to show you how that works. So let's go here. 1, 2. I am playing them with them laying down because otherwise you can't see them. And then I could play the Middle Manager's Suit, but I'm not going to because I do not have really anything worth doing, and that's place an agent in another agent's era. So I could have placed him in mine, and if it had no green, well, then just for the sake of show, I'll take that green back. And I'm back over here. Let me actually play the Middle Manager's Suit. Place an agent in another agent's era. So I'll bring him over here. All right. If the era has no green, add a green there. And then I'm going to add 1 to another agent's era. So that is over here. And then move myself up to 2 eras. So now what I can do is I could choose to spend a green to move again. Because I used my free move already. And that trickles up. So if you move free and then you spend a green to move, and then you spend 2 green to move again, and then 3 green to move again, so it does bundle up. Or you can choose to loop. Now we do have something here that says loop 4 times in Dr. Fo's era. But what we would do is we would take the green up there and we would choose a symbol except the open space black. And all of those symbols in the hand would reactivate. But because I don't want to waste that green quite yet, I'm going to just end my turn. Anytime you end in a region that has an artifact next to it, so for example up there we have Edison's light bulb, I would take it and I put it on the top of the deck. Okay? So when I acquire it at the top of your agent draw pile, All right. So this is kind of like a pseudo deck builder. So now for the refresh phase, because we didn't complete a mission, these would get discarded. The agent gets flipped back to a charged battery, and then all players drop to 3, check for a new cycle and such. That's for multiplayer. So that's round 1 of this game. So now we go to the second round, and first off, we take another clone out with the bag. This is Dr. Foe's turn. He goes first. And it's going in the robotic age in purple. And he has to get all the way to the ancient age. Because this is a time travel game. It's actually one of the few games I think that handles time travel well. Actually, no, I'm going to straighten this out and just bring it over to show you. And I'll just announce what happens here. So the next era is the medieval era. So what we'll do is we'll take his cube tower and we put the center in the medieval. And then it's 2 cubes plus the amount of clones there. And there are no clones there, so it's just 2 cubes. Down the hatch, and they both come out in the medieval era. All right. Now, we didn't change anything about the cards that were on the agent, so they stay there. They do not get discarded according to the solo mode. Check that again just to make sure. Only the artifacts on the active agents. So now what we'll do is we'll keep going, and this is the first thing, of course, is the Edison's light bulb that we pulled last time, and this one doesn't have an agent on it. So what do? When you draw, you get to choose where it goes. So let's see what this what Time Prowler has. Oh, they also have special abilities. I'll show you on their next turns. First off, if he wanted to loop, none of his symbols really match, and he's got one that doesn't. So I'm actually going to give this to Mr. Time because he has a number of swirled stuff in his starting deck. I pulled another one for Mr. Time, and then now Time Prowler will be our active agent. All right, so we've got the Quantum Bandage, which is remove a red from your era. We've also got the Bag of Tricks, which is add a green to the previous era. And then the Prowler's Coat, which is move 1 era, then remove 1 from your era. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to actually use the Quantum Bandage first, which removes a red from our era. Because remember, if ever there's a 4th one, it pops and we get a vortex. And if we ever have 4 vortexes, or vortices, I don't know what the plural is, or one of them pops twice, then we have a problem. So then I am going to actually use his free move. I turn him to his uncharged side to move to the ancient. And the reason is I'm going to use the Prowler's Coat, which allows me to move 1 era, then remove 1 from the era. Sadly, I don't have anything in this hand that would destroy clones. And I could loop, because I am there, so I'm going to add 1 green to the previous era. Oh, sorry, previous era, so it goes backwards. I will then loop. I'll spend 1 cube to loop. And I'm going to loop the star, and I only have 1 card in my hand that has a star, but there's 2 reasons to do this. First, I can do that again to remove a red from the era. Second, what I can do is place a cube here because I am in Dr. Foe's era at this time, and that would give us 1 for the mission. All right. I can also take... Oh, we forgot to reveal an artifact. I'm sorry, everybody. There we go. Make sure you saw this far before you start commenting. I'm going to take Merlin's Elixir, and it goes on the top of the deck, and then this gets discarded. Okay, so let's pull a clone. And what we're going to get is the medieval period, and that one needs to go to the Renaissance. Okay. I'll make sure to do it this time. We draw an artifact, and it goes in the Renaissance. It's the Philosopher's Stone. Okay. I have 2 cards on Mr. Time already, so I think, let's take a look at this again. Merlin's Elixir, which was pulled, doesn't have a symbol on it. And what does it do? Draw 2 artifacts, keep 1 and discard, and destroy or return the other to the top of your draw pile. Let's go ahead and give that to the Time Prowler for now, because he would have more luck with that. Another card for the Time Prowler. Then another card for the Time Prowler. So the Time Prowler gets to go again. And let's make sure before we do that, I'm sorry, I'm really doing a lot of this out of order, and I shouldn't be. Dr. Faux moves. I did forget that. So Dr. Faux moves to the robotic era. We're in a bit of a jam because we could lose the mission up there because there are 3 cubes on it. And it's 2 red cubes, and then there's 1 clone on that spot. All right, so ready to drop, and okay. So 1 in each. So the first thing that happens, and I should have done this way before I started drawing cards, the artifact here will get destroyed. This mission is destroyed because a vortex is now placed on the mission. So let's take these reds off. Then we would flip the new mission, because that one was destroyed, in Dr. Faux's era, and he is in the robotic era. All right. Surround Dr. Faux. You and another agent are on the 2 eras adjacent to Dr. Faux 3 times, once per turn. That's a tricky one. So, anyway, go back to selecting the agent. I selected the Time Prowler. He has a Quantum Wrench. Remove 1 red from one of the next 2 eras. Digital Watch. Add a green to the next era. And then Merlin's Elixir, which was the draw 2. Keep 1 and discard, destroy, or return the other to the top of your draw pile. Now, I do believe this is one of those games where you're allowed to keep your cards from one to the next. I'm checking now just to make sure. Nope, place all artifacts in your hand in your discard pile. I was incorrect. So let me just do this here. I am going to... Oh, I should have flipped over as well so I get my free move. I will move 1 for free to over here. And I have nothing to do with the clones, which is problematic. He's not really much of destroying clones. Add 1. I'll use my digital watch to add 1 green to the next to the next era. So that's over here. I'll use Merlin's Elixir, draw 2 artifacts. Keep 1 and discard, destroy, or return the other to the top of the draw pile. So I have the hoverboard on wheels, which is push 1 clone to an adjacent era, then move to any era. Or the plasma ball. Push 1 clone in any agent's era to an adjacent era. If that destroys it, add a green to the era where it was destroyed. I'm going to use the plasma ball. So this goes to the top of the draw pile, according to Merlin's Elixir. Now, I think this is actually useful, so I'm going to return it to the top of the deck. All right. And there are no reds in the next 2 era, but I'm going to use this green to move. And then I can use my Quantum Wrench to remove 1 from one of the next 2 eras. And everything goes clockwise here as far as the eras go. And at least this board game tells us that time is cyclical. It starts in the ancient, goes all the way to the nuclear age, and then starts back around again. I could loop if I wanted to remove that second one, but I want to keep those there because I think Mr. Time's probably going to go next. By the way, I forgot to keep telling you about the special abilities. During your Faux Phase, after dropping reds into the machine, choose one that beforehand. I know you're probably all screaming at me on the other side of this now. I forgot. That's just how it goes with me. And then I'll make sure I do that for the next time. So all these get discarded. We flip our agent back to fully charged. And he is in an era with no artifacts, so he can't take a card. All right. First things first is a clone. And what do we got? What do we got? We got someone going into the ancient era, and that is not an era that has been pulled yet, and that's concerning. And then an artifact card, which I know goes in the robotic age from Merlin's Elixir. Okay. Now we flip a faux card, and it is the Renaissance, so we'll move to the Renaissance. The center is pointing at the Renaissance. And then 2 plus the clone, so there's 1 clone in the Renaissance, so 3 red cubes. Now what's Mr. Time's special ability, which is once per turn, during your action phase, you may move another agent 1 era. So, we'll keep that in mind. All right, so 2 ended in the Industrial Age and 1 in the Renaissance. Okay, so I'm actually going to use this plasma ball, because it's the first thing I drew, to activate Mr. Time. And we have the plasma ball, which we talked about already, the double battle monocle, which is move one clone from your era to another agent's era, and then the Edison's light bulb. Choose another agent to resolve the ability on one of their artifacts in their hand and discard it or destroy it. The shame there is no hand for the Time Prowler right now, so I'm just going to have to roll with the two that I have. So I'm going to push one clone in any agent's era to an adjacent era. So I'm going to push this orange clone to the digital age, and that destroys it. If it's destroyed, add a green to the era where it was destroyed. Okay, so I've used the plasma ball. And then, I do want to try to get a card. I'm going to use my free move with Mr. Time, and then I'm going to use his ability to move. Actually, no, we're going to keep him there. Oh, I don't have any green right now. If I had a green, I'd be able to get to here, and then I'd be able to surround Dr. Faux. Or, here what we'll do. We'll go back a little bit. I'll spend a green in this era to move one, and then this free move to move another. We have surrounded Dr. Faux. We can place a cube in that mission over there. Okay, so I would need 2 cubes to move again. And now I can move the Time Prowler one era, because I'm going to move him here. And I'm going to use my double battle monocle, move one clone from your era to another agent's era, and that would disintegrate it. It just gets rid of it, destroys it. And sadly, we don't have that mission out anymore because the cubes caused it to pop. I have no artifacts, and I can't really use the Edison's light bulb right now because there were no cards in the hand of the Time Prowler. So I flipped that back over. I discarded my hand. All right. So, gain a clone. They're going in the Industrial Age, and an artifact. It goes in the Ancient Time, the Stone Circles of Stonehenge. And I do apologize for things kind of being off screen here and there. It's a big game, and I only have so much room on this recording device. All right, so now we get the Dr. Faux headed to the Nuclear Age. And he is going to drop 2 red cubes, plus 1 because of the clone that's there. All right. Whoop. That didn't go in the tower. There we go. So that goes there. And these 2 here. All right. So now both of them have a clean slate as far as their card draw. So we have 1 for Mr. Time, 1 for the Time Prowler, 1 for Mr. Time. I've got to shuffle my discard here. And then 1 for Mr. Times. Mr. Time's going again. So my question for the internet, and maybe I'm just not seeing it on the solo mode, is there's no way to tell if you're going to act. So Time Prowler's ability is probably not any good here. And I'm seeing if it clarifies it. Because he does things during Dr. Faux's turn. So it'll be interesting. If you have an answer for me out there, please let me know, because I'm not sure how that would work in solo. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe it's in the operational booklet and I'm just not seeing it. Let me check here. It just seems like I wouldn't ever be able to use that ability, and it's a good ability. Yeah, it looks just like doesn't say anything about solo and the Time Prowler. So if you have the answer out there, let me know. Okay, so let's do. He has, once again, not really an ability to loop. The Middle Manager suit, which we've seen already. The Splendid Pocket Watch, remove a red from any agent's era. And the ionic temporograph in another agent's era, either add a green or remove a red. Okay. So, what should we do first? I'll do the Splendid Pocket Watch. You're always allowed to look through this discard, by the way, because I want to see Ancient still hasn't popped up. And that's a problem. Because we've got that possible to pop. So, I'm going to use my free move to go to the Ancient era. And then I'm going to spend 1 cube to move again. And I'm going to use the Splendid Pocket Watch to remove 1 cube from any agent's era. I'll use the Ionic Temporograph in another agent's era, either add a green or remove a red. I'll remove the red. And then the Middle Manager suit. Do I want to do that? You know what? We're actually going to loop the stars, which is my Splendid Pocket Watch. I'll spend the 1 here to loop. And actually looped in Dr. Faux's era. So, let's do that there. And I'll use that again to get that other red out of the way. And then I'll use place an agent in another era in your agent's era. Basically, there's only 2 of us. And then he adds a green because there's no green in the era. And that's all I'll be able to do. I will be able to take the time NATO. So this all gets discarded. And then I flip my guy back over to show that his move has been used. I'm very afraid of the Ancient era. And another one gets placed in the Ancient era. And that's the one that got flipped this time. So 6 red cubes are getting down the hatch. Just hasn't been a lot of destroy clones that come up. Before we drop those, however, let's put this out. Goes in the Industrial Age. Alright. Alright, so 2 on this. So none of them went into the Ancient era. However, 4 did go here. That'll cause this mission to pop and become a vortex. So any cards that are there or would appear there in the future just get destroyed. Okay, I gotta work harder on some of these. And then when any mission is destroyed, the Dr. Faux era one will flip. And then this is just add 1 green to this era. This one we might be able to accomplish. So now let's work on selecting our cards. We have a card, Time NATO. So the Time Prowler has that ability. I'm going to give the Time Prowler the Time NATO. Mr. Time gets a card. Mr. Time gets a card. The Time Prowler. All right. So he's got Bag of Tricks, Time NATO, and the Brawler's Gloves. So what he's going to do first is he's going to use his free move, and he's going to move to the Ancient era. A little too late, but you know what? He's going to push 1 clone to an adjacent era. He's pushing this one over to the Nuclear Age. He's going to use this Bag of Tricks. Not yet, actually. Hold on. I'm going to add 1 green to the era, which also fulfills 1 in this mission. And then I'm going to loop. Sorry, no, I'm going to move. I'm going to move. And then I'm going to play a Bag of Tricks, which is add a green to the previous era. And then I'll spend this to loop that same Bag of Tricks, which is add 1 to the previous era. All right. So I did some stuff. And we also have surrounded Dr. Faux. Okay. There is no card here for me. There will never be any cards there. So these all just get discarded. I flip my guy back over to show that he's got a free move. And we move on to the next round. So we add a clone. And this will be the last time when we add just 1 clone. It's going to the Industrial Age. And then we add an artifact. And that is going to the Digital Age. But because the Digital Age is a vortex, this gets destroyed. All right. And now we flip the card, and this is the Industrial Age. The Industrial Age has 3 clones in it, so we drop 5 cubes. So if I were to play this again, I'd play one that's more clone attack heavy. Alright, so we've got 1 in this age. Remember, they can go there because it could pop again. And then these 2 here. This will cause a vortex here. Remember, we only need 4 to lose. We never even saw that mission. And this gets destroyed. Alright, we're not doing well. I do think this game, I like it more, with more people, but we'll see how it goes. Alright, so we've time to choose. We've got a card for the Time Prowler, a card for the Time Prowler, and a card for the Time Prowler. Alright, so we've got his Quantum Wrench, his Quantum Bandage, and the Prowler's Coat, all which are good for removing reds. So I'm going to remove 1 from one of the next 2 arrows with my Quantum Wrench. I'm then going to use my free move and then remove 1 from my era. And I wish I could move Mr. Time, because if I could get him over 2 eras, we'd be able to finish that mission, but then one of us would have to be over there. And then the Prowler's Coat, which is move 1 era, then remove 1 from your era. And I don't really have... The only thing I could do is basically move, and you know what? I want to get that Philosopher's Stone. So I'm going to call it. All right, this gets discarded. I grab this for the top of the deck, and then I recharge. Okay, so now what happens is we're going to shuffle the Dr. Faux deck, and now for each turn, we have to pull 2 clones and add an artifact. All right. Okay, so let's pull 2 clones from the bag. So the first one's going to the medieval period, and this one is going to the nuclear age. Okay, and then we add an artifact. It's going to head to the digital age. That's up there, and it's destroyed. The cursed VHS tape. I do love it. All right, and we're going into the ancient age first. This could be it, folks, because if a cube lands on the nuclear age, then the game is done. So here we go, ready, and I'll move them out of the way. 1, 2, 3. And that would have caused a vortex in this age, and that is our 4th vortex, which is a lose condition. So that's the Loops solo mode. You'll hear more on my thoughts when I do my monthly roundup for solo games. And if you have any questions about the game, let me know in the comments below. And if you happen to know if there's been an errata for this ability, because it does say during the Dr. Faux phase, and you're not sure if this is activating, because activating until after the Dr. Faux phase. So if I could get some clarification on that, that'd be great. Otherwise, that's the Loop, everybody. A really neat cooperative game. Let me know if you've played it in the comments below. And we'll see you next time, everybody. Bye.